Hello, and welcome to Executive Mosaic's video interview series. I'm Summer Myatt, and here to speak with me today is Mark Amtower, a GovCon expert and managing partner of Amtower & Company. Mark, thank you for joining me.
Summer, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Mark, you've been immersed in the government contracting world for about 4 decades now. Can you tell us about how you built up your subject matter expertise and positioned yourself as a GovCon thought leader during that time?
It's kind of weird because I certainly did not start out to become a thought leader, and I'm not even sure it's my raison d'etre today. I feel compelled to observe and then to share what I see or share what I'm participating in. I'm driven to write and to speak, and fortunately, I have venues to write and speak. So it is a compulsion with me. So I have the radio show, I have a column in Wash Tech. I'm on a group with Government Marketing University. The ideation group, I actually chair that with Chris Parente and Jana Waring. I watch things that go on in the market. Let me back up a sec. I've been doing this for 37 years. In 1990 or so, I started writing about the market. And I was very fortunate because very few people were writing about the marketing or business development side of the market then. I'm not aware that anybody really was. So I've been writing about the market for over 30 years. Shortly after I started writing, I started getting speaking gigs. And it kind of snowballed from there. When I started, the web really wasn't here, so I had to, get the Federal Computer Week, Government Computer News, Government Exec came in the mail, or I'd have to go to Virginia to the Tower Club to get them. But now, now I get up at 5:45 every morning. The first thing I do is come down, crank up my computer, turn on the coffee, and see what's going on. I don't want to miss anything. I want to know what's happening literally all the time. So, I thrive on feedback from audiences when I speak and from people commenting when I write. These push my limits. And, sometimes I'm writing to better understand what I'm thinking. And that pushes me further. And when I get feedback, now I'm mentoring 7 people right now. And what I'm doing with some of my articles is sending them to them. And these aren't lower level people. 2 of them are CMOs in our market, and the rest are senior marketing people, directors of marketing at major companies. So I send my stuff to them and get feedback before I send it out. So I'm getting a lot of good feedback. But the idea that I'm a thought leader is still a little intimidating. I kind of know I am, but it's not why I do what I do.
Speaking of your writing, you recently co-authored a book titled How to Win in the Government Market. What was that process like? And can you talk about some of the major takeaways that you hope readers will have?
Okay. Well, the first book I wrote came out in 2005. The latest one, the one I did with Mike, How to Win the Government Market, is kind of, it's cheating. Mike called me last fall and said, let's do a book. And Mike Lissagore and I have known each other by reputation for 30 years. We've been reading each other's stuff for a really long time. He focuses on the biz dev and proposal side. I focus on the marketing BD side. And what he proposed was each of us picking 25 essays that we'd written previously and make a book at Amazon's Kindle. So between the 2 of us, we probably have around 1,500 articles that we produce, because Mike's been writing at least as long as I have, possibly longer. So, just on LinkedIn, I have 200 plus articles. So, and I've only been writing there for 7 or 8 years. So we compiled the articles. He did the editing, and it came out via Amazon. And that's a very cool process. But it was a different process for me. I've had self-published books. I've gone with Wiley and Sons for selling to the government. But this was the first time I've really done an Amazon thing, and that was pretty cool.
Well, in the digital age, and especially since the onset of the pandemic, more and more of our daily lives and our professional brands are online. What role does social media play today in a company's success? And how do you help companies leverage LinkedIn as an asset?
Well, during the pandemic, we were forced to do two things: rely more heavily on social networks and develop ways to, like we're meeting right now, right? Online. So I average about 7 or 8 Zoom meetings a day. And I have no Zoom fatigue. I like it. I live in Columbia and everything happens in Virginia, right? So I'm thrilled when I can meet with people without driving. So it's kind of cheating for me. But, on the social networking side, particularly on the LinkedIn side, there's 2.5 million feds on LinkedIn. And I do a census of them every year. That's why I know pretty much exactly how many there are. But I've identified 551 company sites for departments, agencies, operating divisions, and offices. So it gets pretty granular. So when I'm teaching people, teams or individuals about leveraging LinkedIn, we always start with making sure that your profile highlights exactly who you are, what you do, what you bring to the market, what niche you serve. Because if you're just doing like a resume cut and paste thing, you aren't really explaining your role in the universe. So there's several parts of the profile that are key. That opening screenshot. If the background is not used properly or used at all, you've got that nebulous gray little thing that LinkedIn puts up. If you have the generic Washington, D.C. landscape, you're still not telling people what you do. So you can go to canva.com and build a custom background for you if your company is not supplying a custom background. Your headshot, I don't want to see you on a boat. I don't want to see you playing. I want to see a professional shot, right? I want to see headshot, head and shoulders, smiling. And some people still don't get that. But possibly the most important part of that opening screenshot is the area underneath your picture where you have a headline. It's underneath your name, actually. And you've got about 200 characters here. Actually, I think it's 120. To say who you are, what you do, what you serve. Otherwise, the default is your job title. So when I'm teaching people, I get pretty granular on that aspect, because you can be sharing the greatest content in the world, making, trying to reach out to people. But if they go back to a profile that doesn't clearly enunciate who you are, what you do, there's no reason for them to accept the connection. So starting with that, then, taking a deeper dive into those 551 agencies. We can do account-based marketing. We can help you build a subject matter expert platform. LinkedIn is the best place to distribute content according to virtually every study I see out there. Now, distributing the content is one thing. Getting people to read it is something else. So I've been writing for a really long time, and I have some ideas on how to get content read, putting it in the right place, sharing it in the right areas, making the content resonate with a particular audience. Okay, so, and I'll take you offline for this after, but when I talk about LinkedIn and when I'm coaching people on LinkedIn, I get a little excited because I just really love it. It's my favorite sandbox. And it's the first thing I do with the people that I mentor. I mentor 7 women in the market, a couple of CMOs, and again, mostly senior marketing people. But the first thing I do is make sure their profile totally resonates about everything they bring to the market. And I have fun doing it.
It's so important. And Mark, as you know, the federal landscape is always evolving and changing, and those in the GovCon market must adapt accordingly. What's the biggest lesson you've learned about the GovCon market throughout your career?
Well, there's 2 really. One applies to individuals, and that lesson is the only thing you really own is your reputation. So, act accordingly. For companies, the biggest lesson is market share is rented. It's never owned. And any company on any contract can be moved unless they are proactively working that thing. And I've seen some really, really big contracts where the incumbent is literally moved aside for seemingly small reasons, but they aren't small reasons to the people inside the agency. If you've owned a contract for a long period of time, arrogance and complacency can settle in. Those are killers. So anybody can be moved, any company can be moved if you don't manage everything properly. So for yourself, your reputation, for your company, keep in mind, market share is not owned here. We're only renters. We're only passing through.
Mark, if you could give one piece of advice to someone entering the GovCon sector today, what would it be?
First of all, GovCon, the federal market is the largest market in the world. It's the coolest market in the world. It's the biggest money in the world. And, my degrees are in American literature. I've never had a business class in my life. I've taught graduate school for George Washington in the MBA program, but I've never had a business course, right? So find something that you can develop a passion for and grow your knowledge base, and never assume that your knowledge base is sufficient, because it's not. If you're not continuing to grow, continuing to learn, continuing to understand everything that impacts this market, and especially your niche in this market, you're going to fall behind. But if you can develop that passion for what you do, it's going to take you a really, really long way.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for your time today and for all the work you do at Amtower and Company.
Summer, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.